I think the whole root of any entrepreneurship or coming up with an idea is based upon your experiences. So the more experiences you have in life, the more you have to draw from. And I think the most important thing in developing, if you're talking about developing a new product specifically, you have to ask yourself, are you solving a problem? How are you improving upon what already exists?
Right.
And so I think that for anybody who might be in school studying chemistry, or who or who might be in culinary school. Now, somebody in culinary school might make an improvement on the spatula. They might think of it from a food standpoint, like I'm going to invent the next cupcake or something.
Yeah.
But it might be completely opposite. That student in culinary school might come up with a better way of designing some tool in the kitchen. And then the big what if out there is, no matter how ingenious and novel an idea is, you never know what is going to grab hold in the marketplace.
Right.
You really don't. I mean, Chia Pet. Yeah. The pet rock.
I thought that thing was going to die.
The Rubik's Cube.
So early. I know.
The Rubik's Cube was an overnight sensation.
Yeah.
And it's
you
a
can
giant...
name a star now, and that person made a lot of money.
So, yeah, I think I remember reading a story on Yahoo a couple years ago about a guy who sold envelopes full of glitter or something, and like you opened it up and the envelope exploded, and he sold thousands of them. And he figured out, how am I going to package all these envelopes full of glitter and mail them around the world? I mean, you read about random stuff all the time, and you ask yourself, here you are banging your head against the wall, trying to reinvent the wheel or come up with something fantastic that's going to, change the lives of thousands and thousands of people, and then you read about some person who's stuffing glitter into envelopes, making, thousands of dollars.
I mean, yeah. I think a big part of that is risk-taking. I think there is something to say about people that, put themselves out there. It is kind of crazy. A lot of people will go 6 or 7 companies in bankruptcy before they hit something that works, and that's hard to swallow. I don't think a lot of people want to even think about doing that.
And that's the whole thing about entrepreneurship is experiencing, because through every experimentational process, you develop a skill. You actually learn something. It might have failed, and any graduate student who ever wrote a doctorate or a master's student who wrote a thesis, a lot of these days, a lot of ideas are taken, and so a lot of graduate students are just trying to disprove the theories of others.
Yeah.
And it's all about learning. You can have a thesis or a doctorate dissertation that's, well, this doesn't work, but you've saved somebody else the trouble of going down that rabbit hole, and you've learned something in the process too.
Yeah. What would be that one thing if it were a younger Anthony? How would you advise that person?
So you and I kind of talked about this earlier. There, especially in today's world where everything's happening so quickly, there's this thought that if you're an entrepreneur and you come up with a great idea, you have to rush to market right away and get it out there. And I would just, if I were talking to myself a couple of years ago, if I had the opportunity to go back, I would have taken more time with it. I think the product is great where it is, but I made some mistakes along the way, and luckily I was able to recover from those mistakes.
Right.
But I would say take your time with it and really massage it and make sure it's ready.
Yeah.
And don't feel like, and people, there's this sense that if you tell people who've been working on something and you have this great idea and they think it's great, they say, well, how come millions of people don't have it already? What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with your idea. It's just when you're doing something organically and you have an idea, it's a big world and there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
So just take your time with it, and when you feel it's ready, launch.
Right. And I don't think a lot of people realize you can actually use USC for some of this. Like they have business classes and groups of people that are set aside for testing, for product placement and ideas.
I audited a class.
Oh, really?
I audited a first-year engineering class at USC for CAD. I had my own software, but I thought that maybe I could speed up the process a little, so I called the engineering school and they let me audit a class. It was great. You know, I'm an alumni, but it was fantastic just sitting in that class for a few weeks, having already dipped my toes into it. It really accelerated me forward quickly.
Cool.